Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. Secretary, will you please take roll?
Assemblywoman Bacchus. Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Howdigi. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Yeager. Assemblyman Urick. Chair Marzola.
I am here. Please mark Vice Chair present when she arrives, along with Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Welcome everyone that is here in Carson City, everyone in Las Vegas, and anyone joining us over the internet. Today we will hear 4 bills: Assembly Bill 134, Assembly Bill 343, Assembly Bill 415, and Assembly Bill 440. We will also be doing a work session today. Before we start, I would like to make a few housekeeping announcements. Please turn off all your electronic devices. Take a second, look at your phones, look at your computer. Please make sure they are on silent mode. If you wish to testify, please sign in by the table by the door. If you have a business card, please give it to the committee secretary. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. For those testifying online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize any background noise. I expect courtesy and respect, even if we may not agree at times. With that, we will start with our first agenda item. We are going to have our work session first before we start hearing our bills. It is not customary for the committee to take testimony or otherwise rehear any bills that is on work session today. However, I may invite a witness to come forward to clarify or to answer any questions that the committee may have. With that, our first work session, and we're going to take those bills out of order as well. We are going to work session Assembly Bill 251 first. I will turn over to Policy Analyst Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Chair Marzola. Margie Thomas for the record. Assembly Bill 251 revises provisions governing prescriptions. It is sponsored by Assemblyman Nguyen, and it was heard on March 20th. There is one proposed amendment, and there is a mock-up that was prepared by the Legal Division attached to the work session page. It is to amend subsection 3 of section 1 of the bill to authorize a pharmacy to provide the specific directions for use given by the prescribing practitioner in English and the other language in a separate document if it is impractical to include that information on the label or other device affixed to the container of the prescription in English only. If it is practical to provide that information in English on such a label or other device, the pharmacy must include the information in the other language on the label or other device.
Thank you for your explanation. Members, any questions?
Thank you, Chair. My ears are still a little plugged up. I apologize. But just for clarification, the amendment, as I read it, is just going to be the description of take the medication 2 times a day, whatever it may be, and not a full history of the prescription. Is that correct?
That is correct, but Assemblyman, would you like to come up, or
No.
am I correct in saying that he is correct? Okay.
Shaking his head is fine with me. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass. I have a first from Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, a second from Assemblywoman Torres. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. We have a nay from Assemblywoman Kasama. Did I hear you right? Okay. Motion carries. I will assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Nguyen. We will now begin with Assembly Bill 147. Ms. Thomas?
Assembly Bill 147 revises provisions relating to dentistry. It is sponsored by Assemblywoman Marzola, heard on March 17th. There are 10 proposed amendments by Eddie Ablisser with Tri-Strategies, and I will run through them for you. The first is to add a new section to Chapter 631 of NRS to provide that nothing precludes an organization for dental care or an administrator of a health benefit plan that includes dental coverage from negotiating reimbursement rates for teledentistry with providers in their plan. The second one is to delete subsection 4B of Section 7. The third is to delete Section 8 of the bill and replace with a licensee who provides dental services through teledentistry for patients in Nevada shall possess and maintain professional liability insurance, insuring the licensee against any liability arising from the provision of dental services. The fourth is to amend subsection 1B of Section 9 to remove teacher from the list of unlicensed persons with whom subsection 1B of Section 9 specifically authorizes the licensee to collaborate through teledentistry to provide diagnostic services or plan treatment for a dental emergency. The fifth proposed amendment is to amend Section 10 of the bill to provide that 1, a bona fide relationship with a patient may be established through teledentistry only for the purposes of emergent care or in connection with a public health program, and 2, define emergent care and public health program. The sixth proposed amendment is to amend subsection 2B of Section 10 of the bill to require a licensee to obtain the informed written consent of the parent or guardian of the patient before providing services through teledentistry if the patient is an unemancipated minor. The seventh is to delete Section 16 of the bill. Proposed Amendment 8 is to amend the requirements of the bill which require an applicant for a license to practice dentistry or dental therapy or any of its special branches to submit proof of the completion of certain education requirements concerning teledentistry to instead require only an applicant for a license to practice dental hygiene, dental therapy, or dentistry, or a licensee who wishes to practice teledentistry to complete such education requirements. Ninth proposed amendment is to delete sections 26, 27, 28, and 29 of the bill. And the 10th amendment is to add a new section to the bill requiring a licensee of the board who performs an initial examination, screening, or examination on a minor with the consent from a parent or guardian to refer the minor to a dental home, which may include without limitation a virtual dental home when appropriate, and to define a dental home and a virtual dental home. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend you for, I know we worked together on some of these amendments. Your patience is amazing. I'll make that my question. How can you have such patience when we propose so many amendments? But I want to thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. You're great to work with yourself. Members, any other questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass. I have a first from Assemblyman O'Neill. I have a second from Assemblywoman Torres. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will take that floor statement. Next is Assembly Bill 158. Mrs. Thomas, you may start when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. AB 158 revised provisions relating to emergency medical services. It is sponsored by Assemblyman O'Neill, heard on March 17th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Members, are there any questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to do pass. First from Assemblywoman Torres. Is there a second? A second from Assemblyman, I'll take it from Assemblywoman Kasama. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Next, we will hear from Mrs. Thomas on Assembly Bill 223.
Assembly Bill 223 revises requirements relating to collection agencies. It is sponsored by Assemblyman Carter and heard on March 6th. There are 6 proposed amendments by Kaylin Cardavani with the Nevada Justice Association. The first is to require a request for a payoff letter to be sent to a collection agency by certain means and contain certain information. The second is to require a collection agency to provide a debtor with a satisfaction letter meeting certain requirements, not later than 5 business days after the date on which the debtor satisfies the claim. The third proposed amendment is, in addition to authorizing a debtor aggrieved by the failure of a collection agency to provide a payoff letter as required by the bill to bring a civil action against the collection agency, authorize a debtor aggrieved by the failure of a collection agency to provide a satisfaction letter as required by the bill to bring a civil action against the collection agency. The fourth is to revise the definitions of payoff letter and defines satisfaction letter and electronic means. The fifth is to provide that a debtor may request 3 payoff letters per debt account within any 180-day time period. Authorize a collection agency to charge a reasonable amount for any additional requests within the 180-day period. And the sixth proposed amendment is to amend the provisions of NRS 649.366, which require a collection agency before collecting a medical debt to send a written notification to a medical debtor by registered or certified mail to remove the requirement that the mail by which the notification is sent be registered or certified.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 223. I have a first from Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman Yurek. Any discussion on this motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblyman Carter. Next, we will hear from Mrs. Thomas on Assembly Bill 239.
Assembly Bill 239 makes various changes relating to governmental administration. It was sponsored by the Committee on Government Affairs for the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission. It was heard on March 13th. There are 2 proposed amendments by Stephen Johnson with Washoe County Sheriff's Office and Amy Davey with the Office of Traffic Safety with the Department of Public Safety. The first is to remove sections 5 through 7 of the bill, and the second is to amend Section 8 of the bill to authorize the committee to, 1, study and make recommendations to the Director of DPS regarding practices, technologies, and methods of detective and determining the presence of and the effect of driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor, a controlled substance, or other prohibited substance. 2, certify devices and methods to test a person's blood, urine, or other sample to determine the presence of or concentration of alcohol, a controlled substance, or other prohibited substance, and create a list of those devices or methods. And 3, adopt regulations relating to the calibration or verification of such devices or methods and the certification of persons who operate those devices or methods or who examine operators.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I don't see any. I will entertain a motion to amend and do pass Assembly Bill 239. I have a first from Assemblywoman Torres. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman Carter. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Vice Chair Howdigy.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next, we will begin with Assembly Bill 276. Mrs. Thomas, you may begin when you're ready.
Assembly Bill 276 revises provisions governing telehealth. It is sponsored by Assemblywoman Duran, and there are no proposed amendments.
Members, any discussion? I don't see any. I'll entertain a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 276. I have a first from Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. I have a second from Vice Chair. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I'll sign that floor statement to Assemblywoman Duran. Our last bill on our work session is Assembly Bill 284. Mrs. Thomas, you may begin when you're ready.
Assembly Bill 284 authorizes the business of a mortgage company to be conducted from a remote location under certain circumstances. It is sponsored by Assemblywoman Kasama. It was heard on March 24th, and there are no proposed amendments.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I don't see any. I will entertain a motion to do pass on Assembly Bill 284.
So moved.
Vice Chair Howdigi has made the first. Is there a second? A second from Assemblywoman Kasama. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see anyone. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. I will assign that floor statement to Assemblywoman Kasama. We will now move to hearing our bills. I am also going to take that out of order. We will start with Assembly Bill 343, which revises provisions relating to occupational therapy. Assemblyman Miller, you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the Prudent Committee on Commerce and Labor, if I get it correct here. For the record, I am C.H. Miller. I represent Assembly District 7 down in Clark County, and I'm here today to present Assembly Bill 343. This bill revises provisions relating to NRS 640A, the Board of Occupational Therapy. Now, for a bit of background information, occupational therapists, or OTs as I'll refer to them from this point on, are licensed healthcare professionals who help patients maximize their quality of life. They work with people of all ages with various health issues to adapt surroundings and tasks to help people live better with disabilities, injuries, or illnesses. Occupational therapists work in many different settings, such as clinics, hospitals, nursing facilities, and home health. In Nevada, the Board of Occupational Therapy licenses and regulates OTs and OT assistants. This measure makes several changes to the board's law, including issuing a license by reciprocity, a provisional license or a temporary license, issuing a citation to a licensee who commits certain violations of the provisions of existing law governing occupational therapy, revising the qualifications for a person to obtain a license as an OT or an OT assistant, and providing a salary for members of the board. I believe in the exhibits, you should have a list of what the salary would look like. It is very reasonable, not very expensive, and it's also covered by fees. So I think that is good. From here on, I will pass it on to Ms. Loretta Ponton, Executive Director of the Board of Occupational Therapy. She will provide additional details on the bill, and we will be available for questions. Chair, with your permission, may I pass it on?
Absolutely. Just remember to state and spell your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Loretta Ponton, Ponton. I'm the Executive Director for the Board of Occupational Therapy, and I'm pleased to provide testimony and present our bill, AB 343, revising provisions to our law pertaining to occupational therapy. First of all, our purpose and need for the proposed changes is twofold. The primary purpose is to eliminate barriers to licensure. A little background, after holding meetings and public workshops soliciting stakeholder input, the board is embracing a tiered strategy preparatory to joining the Occupational Therapy Licensure Compact. Section 2 of this bill is the first step by providing reciprocity to occupational therapy practitioners who reside in a state that is a member of the Occupational Therapy Compact. The OT Compact was ratified in 2022, with the initial 10 states joining the Compact. Currently, there are 23 states who have passed legislation as members of the Compact. The first organizational meeting of the Compact was held in August of 22. The organizational structure, staffing, database, rules, fees, and reporting requirements remain to be determined. The first Compact privilege to practice through the OT Compact is slated for 2024 after the structure and rules have been finalized. The availability of reciprocity will provide baseline data for determining the impact of compact privilege to practice on the availability of services, number of individuals seeking a license in Nevada from compact states who potentially would be eligible for a compact privilege, and potential fiscal impact to the board and to the state of Nevada. The board will continue to monitor the implementation of the OT Compact to determine whether to recommend legislation to join the compact at a future session. There currently is not enough solid information on the requirements, financial obligations, and impacts it may have on Nevada. Currently, licensure by endorsement remains available for out-of-state applicants, and expedited licensure with reduced fees for military, veterans, and spouses is available through our current NRS provisions. Second bullet point establishes national certification and testing standards for licensure eligibility. The National Board for Certification in Occupational Therapy certifies qualified occupational therapy practitioners. Currently, NBCOT, the acronym, certification is required for licensure in Nevada. The Nevada jurisprudence exam is required for all new applicants for licensure. The examination is web-based, accessible on the board website at no cost, and is the only state-required element of license applications. Section 8 establishes the eligibility for licensure in Nevada as national certification by the National Board of Certification in Occupational Therapy and passage of the Nevada jurisprudence exam on the Nevada state law and regulations. The National Board of Certification in Occupational Therapy has established criteria for eligibility for testing and certification, which includes graduation from educational programs accredited by the Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy. NBCOT evaluates applicants' transcripts, including foreign-educated applicants, to ensure educational requirements are met in order to take the certification examination. Stringent eligibility and examination criteria are established by NBCOT to obtain national certification in occupational therapy, eliminating duplication at the state level, thereby furthering the elimination of barriers to licensure. We also will be creating a provisional license to practice under the supervision of a licensed occupational therapist for individuals in the process of obtaining national certification. And this language is to align with the national testing and licensure eligibility requirements, and that's in Section 3 of the bill. A new graduate, when determined eligible to take the national exam by NBCOT, will be able to enter the workforce immediately. A new graduate licensee must be under the direct supervision of a licensed occupational therapist and must pass the national certification exam within 1 year. That is the primary purpose of this bill. Secondary purposes and need for this legislation are administrative in nature. First, we will establish criteria for issuing administrative citations for certain violations, remedial action, and administrative fines. That's Section 4. Currently, all violations, whether administrative or practice-related, must be handled through the formal complaint and disciplinary action process. The ability to issue citations and fines will expedite resolution in a cost-effective manner for both the board and the practitioner in resolving administrative violations such as updating legal name and contact information, displaying of their license, or providing proof of continuing education. Secondly, we would like to authorize salary for our board members who have been serving without compensation consistent with and at the same rate as other regulatory boards, and that's in Section 7. The board is funded solely by licensure fees and receives no funding from the state general fund. The board has sufficient funding to cover the expenses related to board salary, estimated to be less than $6,000 per year. Update language and make conforming revisions and repeal various provisions that are duplicate of or will no longer be the responsibility of the board, but the adoption of national certification and eligibility standards is the third bullet point there. I have provided a summary of AB 343 by section, one brief sentence for each section. I'd be happy to go over those with you or open it up for any questions that you may have. I would like to note, again, Loretta Ponton, Executive Director, I would like to note that the Nevada Occupational Therapy Association has submitted a friendly amendment to this bill to change just one word in one section that we would be open to making that change if you so wish. Thank you.
Thank you. That was going to be actually one of my questions. We'll go ahead and move to questions from the committee members, and we'll start with Vice Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to confirm some information. So it looks like 20 states are currently members of the compact. Do we know how many states are currently considering it this year? And then in Nevada, we have occupational therapy licenses, but do we have occupational therapy assistants, and would the assistants also be part of the compact?
Loretta Ponton, Executive Director for the record. There are currently 10 states, additional states considering legislation, whether it goes through this year or through the following year, to join the Occupational Therapy Compact. Answer to your second question, we do license occupational therapy assistants as well as occupational therapists. They would also fall under the reciprocity and the compact provisions when in the future we move to compact status.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to follow up, are states allowed to make changes to the compact? And what happens if a state does pass legislation that makes changes to a compact? Do the other states have to adopt it, or?
Loretta Ponton, for the record. There is a model occupational therapy compact language that is required to be adopted by each state. There can be no substantial changes. There can be minor changes to it as long as the substantive language is there. And there is quite a few requirements that we need further clarification on, like what would be the responsibility of the state and liabilities associated. It would be state law. There is a provision in the compact, once adopted, that it would take another action of the state legislature to withdraw from that compact. So it is a commitment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, just a comment, but I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this forward. We had a healthcare workforce day in interim commerce and labor, and I've seen the need in every areas of healthcare for workforce. So I'm hopeful that this will help bring people to Nevada. Thank you.
We will move on to Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And along those lines, I had a question about the compact, because we're seeing a lot of legislation this session where the compact is encompassed in our statutes. And with this one, I'm not seeing it here. And I may have misheard your testimony, but I thought you were saying that it was still being worked out with the rules and everything like that. And that concerns me, because we're basically saying we're signing something we're not seeing. So can you kind of explain that for me?
Loretta Ponton, for the record. Yes, our bill does not propose to join the OT Compact at this time. We're taking a tiered approach to make sure that those rules and regulations that are established by the Compact are in place, and we know how that would impact Nevada. We're taking the tiered approach of doing reciprocity for individuals from individuals residing in a state that has joined the compact, because there is specific eligibility requirements. This is the first step in ours. One is national certification. We're moving to national certification requirements. We're eliminating the duplication of efforts in our bill, so that when at a future legislation, after they get everything in place and we can look at it, and make that determination, we would be ready to move and come back to the legislature and present that at that time.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I have a follow-up? It's actually not a follow-up. It's a total different question. But I noticed, and I appreciate the fact that the Occupational Therapy Board is open and making this more along those lines as reciprocity. But you guys had actually a really good provision that I am sad to see is being repealed, and that is NRS 640A.160. And in that, it's an exception to taking our state examination if someone had already passed the national board certification. And so that's being sought to be repealed. But then in Section 3, you can get a provisional license if you're eligible to take that exam, as well as already passing our state exam. So it sounds like we're adding additional barriers. Can you kind of elaborate why that is?
Loretta Ponton for the record. The state-required exam, the board had designated the national exam as the state exam. So that's why that is being removed. We're specifying that the national exam is the exam for eligibility. When the original language was created, the national exam, the National Board for Certification in Occupational Therapy, was not created at that time. There was a joint association, the American Occupational Therapy Association also did the examinations as well as represented the association. And now we're talking back in the 1990s when this was first created. Since then, they split into two organizations because they felt that was a conflict of interest, that the examination organization also represented the individuals. So they separated into two separate organizations, and the certification organization is the NBCOT. The association is the National Association for Occupational Therapy. They work together. We work very closely with both organizations. They both have their specific needs, or they meet specific targets, and the certification area was taken over by the National Board. It's redundant for us. We're removing that language because it's no longer necessary because we're designating that national organization at that time.
Then I think the confusion also lies, and this is maybe a provision you may want to look at, is under Section 3, subsection A, has the requirement that they do pass our state exam under NRS 640A.150, but then C then comes back and says that you're eligible. And I think your intent now sounds like that you're eligible for the national board exam, and maybe A doesn't need to be in there.
Loretta Ponton, for the record. The exam that's referenced there is the examination on the Nevada law and regulations, not the national examination.
Thank you for your answers. Assemblyman O'Neill?
Thank you, Chair. I've got to thank Assemblyman Miller for this bill. I find it exciting. I know we are terribly short in all medical services providers, including occupational therapists, so thank you for coming forward. But I do have a question, if you could just help me understand. If you go to Section 14, 14 sub 2, it reads, it talks about continuing education requirements that the board may write up regulations. And here's how I understand it. I'm confused. You may put requirements for continuing education, which may require a licensee to take and pass the examination approved by the board. So if they're already licensed, having taken the test or the examination, can you explain to me why you're requiring them to renew their license to take the exam again?
Loretta Ponton, for the record. Again, it's referencing NRS 150, which that section refers to the examination on the law and regulations of the state of Nevada. That is a section being, so currently, it's required for initial licensure. In regulation currently, we require that they retake that examination on the law and regulations, the jurisprudence exam, at least once every 5 years, because we're continually evolving. We're making new changes to our laws and our regulations, and that's what that is referring to there. We may change it to, maybe they take it every 3 years or every 2 years as needed. But we do give them continuing education credit for taking that examination, but we do make it a requirement.
Thank you for that explanation. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. We will move for testimony and support. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 343? I don't see anybody walking up. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 343? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Callers, if you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 343, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello, thank you to the chair and the committee for allowing me to speak. My name is Angela Terencha, and I'm an occupational therapy student from UNLV and a member of the Nevada Occupational Therapy Association. I am in support of AB 343 as it can increase access to occupational therapy services for our community here in Nevada. Please refer to a written submission by the Nevada Occupational Therapy Association regarding a friendly amendment to a revision of language in Section 6, Paragraph 3. Thank you for your services and your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Can you please spell your name for the record? Or not?
Angela, Angela, Terencio, Terencio.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 343. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 343? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 343, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in a neutral position. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to provide testimony in a neutral position to Assembly Bill 343? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 343? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 343, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Assemblyman, would you like to give any final remarks?
I just want to thank this amazing committee for their time and urge your support of this very important bill. You all are lucky I didn't bring up unregistered vehicles or the road to Napa during this entire presentation. Have a great evening, afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you. There's a lot of compliments going on in this committee today. I like it. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 343. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 134, which requires licensing of pharmaceutical sales representatives. 1 minute recess. Assemblywoman Peters, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Things move so quickly in this building sometimes. Madam Chair, did you open the hearing on 134?
I did open it.
Okay.
You may start when you're ready.
Thank you. I asked because I'm bringing two bills in front of your committee today, and I'm hoping they can be back to back, but I will start with 134. For the record, my name is Sarah Peters. I am the representative from Assembly District 24 in Reno. As the chair of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services, I am here today to present two bills that address the cost of prescription drugs. The first is Assembly Bill 134, which requires pharmaceutical sales representatives to be licensed in Nevada. This bill was requested by the committee. I would like to present a short overview of the legislative efforts to address the cost of prescription drugs, followed by two bill presentations, if I may, Madam Chair. Some background information. The soaring prices of prescription drugs in America is a significant challenge for average citizens. The cost per capita is a whopping $1,310 in 2020, which sets our country far apart from other developed nations in terms of its drug prices. Sadly, those who are uninsured or underinsured are hit the hardest by these exorbitant prices. However, even patients with health insurance cannot escape the financial burden as they are forced to pay higher premiums, deductibles, and co-pays. During the interim period, the HHS Interim Committee heard presentations on previous legislative efforts to make prescription drug costs more affordable and transparent for Nevadans. For instance, the legislature created the interim study in 2019 called the Committee to Conduct an Interim Study Concerning the Cost of Prescription Drugs. The committee studied various aspects concerning the costs of prescription drugs, including the prescription drug supply chain, underlying reasons for the high costs of drugs, policy interventions on the federal and state levels, and legislative options. Out of the 5 interim study bills that were introduced last session, only 2 bills were passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. Those were SB 380, which expanded the pharmaceutical drug pricing transparency program, and SB 396, which allows public agencies in our state to enter into agreements with private entities for bulk purchasing of pharmaceutical drugs or medical services. 3 bills did not pass, including the following 2. SB 392, which would have prohibited certain practices by a pharmaceutical benefits manager, or PBM, and SB 201, which would have required DHHS to license pharmaceutical sales representatives. The HHS Interim Committee voted to reintroduce these 2 bills. A modified version of the PBM bill, which is Assembly Bill 440 and is on the committee's agenda today, and Assembly Bill 134, which we are discussing right now. Let me give you some context for Assembly Bill 134. Pharmaceutical sales representatives act as intermediaries between drug manufacturers and healthcare providers, promoting medications and providing information about their benefits and potential side effects. However, there is a growing concern about the potential for conflict of interest, aggressive marketing tactics, and influence of financial incentives on prescription practices. By implementing a system of licensure and regulation, we can ensure that these professionals adhere to a set of standards and ethical guidelines. This will promote a higher level of transparency and accountability within the industry and help prevent the undue influence of financial incentives on prescribing decisions. In turn, this can lead to more rational prescribing practices and a greater focus on evidence-based medicine. The licensure of sales representatives can also positively impact prescription drug prices in Nevada by promoting cost-effective prescribing practices and allocating licensure fees to initiatives aimed at enhancing transparency in drug pricing. We can develop strategies to address high drug prices and make medications more affordable. To be specific, last interim, representatives from the Drug Transparency Program at DHHS testified on funding difficulties for the program. The fees for the licensing of pharmaceutical sales representatives set forth in Assembly Bill 134 would support the operation of this important program. Additionally, Assembly Bill 440 has a fee that would also offset the costs of that transparency program, and we'll go over that in the next bill hearing. I'll briefly discuss the key sections of Assembly Bill 134, if that is okay with the chair. Okay, Section 7 mandates that any person marketing prescription drugs to healthcare providers, pharmacies, medical facilities, and insurers for more than 15 days in a calendar year must obtain a license from the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services. The license is valid for 1 year, and the State Board of Health is required to adopt regulations for the practice and regulation of pharmaceutical sales representatives. Under Section 7, fees collected for the licensure of pharmaceutical sales representatives must be used only to cover the cost of licensing and regulating pharmaceutical sales representatives and for the purpose of improving transparency concerning prescription drug costs. The bill also outlines prohibitive conduct for licensed pharmaceutical sales representatives in Section 8, addressing ethical practices in the industry. Section 9 requires the division to maintain records of proceedings relating to the licensure, discipline, and investigation of pharmaceutical sales representatives. Certain records related to such proceedings are confidential. Any violation of the bill's provisions relating to the licensure and regulation of pharmaceutical sales representatives is classified as a misdemeanor in Section 12. And further, in Section 13, authorizes the division to maintain an action for an injunction against any person or business entity that violates these provisions. To conclude, AB 134 aims to promote transparency, ethical practices, and accountability in the pharmaceutical industry by establishing clear regulations and licensing requirements for pharmaceutical sales representatives. By doing so, we hope to protect the interests of healthcare providers and patients while maintaining the integrity of the pharmaceutical sales profession. Thank you for your attention. We also have, I believe, Ms. Slamowitz from the Department of Health and Human Services, who is in charge of that drug transparency program we mentioned in the audience, if there are specific questions to the work of the state in this area. And with that, I stand for questions on Assembly Bill 134.
Thank you, Assemblywoman, and thank you for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblyman Yurek.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation and the information. I know that we are definitely dealing with challenges with prescription costs. My question is, how many other states license and regulate pharmaceutical reps? And assuming that there are other states that are doing it, do we have information or data that shows that there's like a direct correlation between such licensure and regulation and the actual costs or hopefully decrease in the costs of prescriptions?
Assemblywoman Peters, for the record, I wish that I were an expert in this area. It's not my area of expertise. I would potentially request that we ask Beth Slamowitz, who works in this area, if she has a response to that. It may be outside of her expertise area, in which I could follow up with you, but yeah.
Hi, so Beth Slamowitz, for the record, Senior Policy Advisor on Pharmacy for the Department of Health and Human Services. So there are a couple other states, as well as Washington, D.C., that put this into action to try to oversee the practice of drug reps. I have a couple notes here from the last time we presented this, so I can probably bring that up for you. I was actually searching for it as I was sitting there and you were talking. There was also a study done in 2017 that was in the Journal of American Medicine, and it looked at what happened to the market share of brand name drugs that were sold by drug reps at 19 academic medical centers from 2006 until 2012. Each institution in the study banned small gifts and regulated rep visits more strictly at some point during this time. The first enacted prohibitions that they put in place was in October of 2006 through May of 2011. When they looked at the timeline and allowed the researchers to examine the rate of prescriptions for the drugs and how they changed when policies were put into effect, they found that the drugs lost 1.67% in market share to cheaper generics and drugs without a dedicated sales force. If it doesn't sound like a lot, think of it in a percentage of 60 billion, which in 2010 was the sales revenue for the drugs that were covered by the study. So it works out to a pretty handsome share. So hopefully that's helpful information.
And yeah, quick follow-up, and it's really not a follow-up, it's kind of a separate question, but I believe you indicated that there was a measure that was last session that was this bill, and I believe you said it didn't make it through, which is obviously why we're here. And I thought you said there were specific amendments that you've made to correct some of the concerns of why it didn't pass that. Can you just clarify that for us?
I appreciate the question, Sarah Peters, for the record. I've been working with stakeholders on both of the bills that I'm bringing to you today. I chose not to bring amendments because we haven't fleshed out all of the issues and solutions to those issues. So I understand the concerns, and we're continuing to work together on those issues, but we're just not at a place to be able to present that today.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this bill forward, Assemblywoman. I just have a quick question. Do you happen to know, because I know where your intent is here, with creating the license to be able to monitor and stuff, but I've seen in other divisions where, in addition to licensing, there's other things done as well too, like they put in statute saying that you cannot provide gifts, you cannot spend more than a certain amount of dollars on someone. Like in this case, it would be like a pharmaceutical rep can't spend more than $40 a quarter on a physician, right, or a physician's office, things like that, so that they kind of eliminate inducements for business, right? And so I was wondering if that is something, does that exist for pharmaceutical reps right now? Because I know that's very common in other areas in statute.
Sarah Peters, for the record, I would defer to Ms. Slamowitz, who is more familiar with existing regulations and statutes than I am.
So Beth Slamowitz, for the record, Senior Policy Advisor for the Department of Health and Human Services. So there isn't necessarily anything in state or federal statute that sets what a pharmaceutical representative can or can't do. There is just best practices and guidance that was put into place, especially in lieu of or in as a result of the opioid epidemic. And a lot of the deceptive practices and kind of analytics that took place in terms of hitting doctors, for prescribing practices and things like that based on that epidemic. So that being said, there's nothing necessarily in statute that says what they can or can't do as a gift. It really is just kind of what's considered to be best practice.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your presentation, Assemblywoman. I really do appreciate it. I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more information about how other states have been doing this. Are there other states that are licensing them? How many?
Sarah Peters, for the record, I don't know if we have the specifics in front of us on how many other states have done this, but it is popping up across the country as an issue, and I could follow up with you on that. I have it in my notes on my computer, but not in front of me today, and I apologize for not bringing that information.
And a follow-up, if I could, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. And, I do think if we do license them, we could definitely put some of the regulations in place that my colleague, the Majority Leader, had stated as well, right? We could definitely put regulations in place that in regards to, like, how they may engage in business practice as well.
Sarah Peters, for the record. Yeah, the bill in front of you in section 7, subsection 2, gives authority to the state board and mandates the state board to adopt regulations to carry out the provisions of the chapter. And there are some criteria for those, but we include the without limitation. So there are additional regulations that entity could adopt as it sees best practice, right, for the industry.
Assemblywoman Kusama, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Could you just give me an idea, because these are sales reps, and so what type of training are you envisioning? Are you training them on the drugs, or just, could you just give me a big picture what type of training you might be expecting for these sales representatives?
Sarah Peters for the record. So I don't know what a training manual for a pharmaceutical sales rep looks like, but there are existing training requirements for a pharmaceutical sales rep just as best practice in the industry, is my understanding. And so there, as we adopt regulations and that public process goes through, those best standard practices would be fleshed out and included as the training. There are the practices, I believe, are related to like how to describe medication, how to ensure that the medication is described in the way it can be used. Those kinds of kind of ethical best practice stuff I know is out there, but that would be fleshed out in the regulations. And I think it's an appropriate place for it to be fleshed out. In this body, we talk a lot about how prescriptive our statutes have to be, right? And sometimes we need to get prescriptive because what's happening on the ground is not creating the ecosystem that we envision. But I think for a first go at regulating this industry that's has a standard of practice in place, the best place for that to happen is at the regulatory level where those public input processes can happen, and then it would come back to the Ledge Commission.
Thank you.
Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Don't the pharmaceutical companies who hire these reps train them and educate them on the various drugs and also on their competitors' drugs too, so they know how to answer the questions for the physicians? And I have a follow-up to that being, aren't they insured by then the companies if they misrepresent?
Sarah Peters for the record. My understanding is that that is the narrative that exists, but I don't know if we have any record of it without having some place to put that record, right? I would defer to Ms. Slamowitz, though, on her expertise in this area.
Beth Slamowitz for the record, Senior Policy Advisor on Pharmacy for Department of Health and Human Services. So I'm, not privy to the exact training, manuals or things that are given to pharmaceutical reps. That is the narrative that's given, is that we would hope that they are trained not only on the medication that they are representing, but also, potentially on, their competitors' medications. Again, they're, usually speaking to one medication. Most often, the drug companies are going to send out their representatives that represent their highest revenue medications, often brand name drugs, whether or not they're potentially could be generic alternatives to those medications. They aren't, to my knowledge, required to say that there are generic alternatives or anything that is less expensive when they are explaining the use of their medications to prescribers. And I think really when we're looking the transparency program for the state, we currently only collect information on how many events there are, how many drug reps there are, how many events they have. We collect information on compensation that's given to providers, and then we ask them to categorize those compensation to providers. And what we have noticed is a very steep upward trend over the last few years in terms of the amount of compensation that's being provided to providers in terms of the medications that they're asked to sell.
May I follow up? You said you keep records on events. Could you define what an event is? Is that a contact with a physician? Or is
Correct.
that a negative issue that has occurred with that medication?
No, that would be the contact with the physician.
So every time they talk to a physician or physician's office, that's an event,
Right.
correct? And one more, if I may. Isn't somewhat the responsibility of the purchaser, i.e. this trained physician, this doctor, specialist, to ask some of those questions about, are there generics? I mean, I'm almost hearing that you don't trust the purchaser or the buyer to ask some questions. And here we've got physicians who have years in the field. I'm a little confused. Thank you.
I'll take it. Assemblywoman Peters for the record. we really are talking about ethics in this bill, right? A standard of ethics. And you're right, physicians have a standard of ethics, but I'm unsure if in their medical education, they're trained on how to communicate with a pharmaceutical sales representative, right? And so who is to have that ethical requirement? How are we supposed to know how those conversations should go? I am a fan of physicians. I come from a family, right, of practitioners in medicine. They are very intelligent people. They're still required to take continuing education credits. We can't expect them to be the end-all, be-all. And when we have industry that is actively making money off of these decisions being made by physicians who are spread very thin, and we've talked about that several times during this session, I think it's fair for us to put in an ethical obligation to that relationship that's not just the onus on the doctor, but also on the provider of those services.
Thank you for your answers. Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. We will move to testimony in support of Assembly Bill 134. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 134? I don't see anyone walking up. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 134?
Callers, if you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 134, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Brian Harris, voter education organizer at Battle Born Progress, and we're in strong support of AB 134, and we thank this committee for pushing this critical bill forward. Thank you for your time, and we will submit further written testimony shortly.
Thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 134. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 134? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Callers, if you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 134, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in the neutral position for Assembly Bill 134. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in the neutral position? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in the neutral position to Assembly Bill 134? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 134, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Assemblywoman, would you like to give any final remarks?
Madam Chair, thank you so much, Sarah Peters, for the record. Just briefly, I just want to reiterate that this bill is about transparency and accountability for an industry that has a significant dollar value, but also an impact on vulnerable communities. I will continue to work with stakeholders on issues that have arisen that they were gracious enough to come in and put on the record because we're working through those. I also just want to, for the record, ensure that it's very clear that this bill is a component of funding the existing pharmaceutical transparency work that's being done, and then the other piece we will talk about in the next bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you again for bringing this bill forward. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 134. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 440, which revises provisions relating to pharmacy benefit managers. Assemblywoman Peters, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. and committee members. For the record, I am Sarah Peters, representing Assembly District 24. I'm pleased to present Assembly Bill 440, the partner bill to Assembly Bill 134. Assembly Bill 440 prohibits certain practices of pharmacy benefit managers and PBMs. I want to start by saying that the stakeholders have been incredibly gracious with their time in working with me on this bill. We have not come up with a resolution at this time, and thereby I have not submitted an amendment because it's still a work in progress. So I will present today on the bill as it is written, but just assure you that I'm continuing to work with stakeholders. So during the previous hearing on Assembly Bill 134, I provided you with the context to which measures requested by the Interim Committee on Health and Human Services were made. The other bill I was referring to is this bill, Assembly Bill 440. To begin, let's discuss what PBMs are and their role in the healthcare industry. Pharmacy benefit managers manage prescription drug benefits on behalf of health insurers, self-insured employers, and government programs. They play an important role by serving as intermediaries between drug manufacturers, wholesalers, pharmacies, and patients. And their primary function is to negotiate discounts and rebates for manufacturers, create drug formularies, process prescription drug claims, and establish pharmacy networks, all of which sounds altruistic and wonderful in the scheme of how we pay for healthcare. However, there have been some downsides associated with PBMs. One of the primary criticisms is the lack of transparency in their operations, which can make it difficult for insurers, employers, and patients to determine the true cost of medications. This has raised concerns about potential conflict of interest and profiteering. A widely publicized issue, for example, is spread pricing. Spread pricing occurs when health insurers contract with PBMs to manage their prescription drug benefits, and PBMs keep a portion of the amount paid to them by the health plans for prescription drugs. Specifically, a PBM retains the difference or spread between the amount the PBM charges a health insurer and the amount it reimburses the pharmacy when a patient purchases a drug through the health insurance plan. Experience in other states demonstrates that spread pricing can account for hundreds of millions of dollars annually. For example, in 2018, Ohio state auditors discovered that PBMs contracting with the state's Medicaid MCOs had a spread of over 31% or $208 million for generic drugs. In Kentucky, a study initiated by Kentucky State Senate Bill 5 from 2018 found that PBMs kept a spread of $123.5 million in 2018. Due to the prevalence of this issue among Medicaid's MCOs, the U.S. Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, even issued guidance on how to address spread amounts in its medical loss ratios. In recent years, Nevada has made efforts to increase transparency and oversights in the PBM industry. One such piece of legislation is Senate Bill 380, which passed in 2021. This revised and expands the information PBMs must report to the Department of Health and Human Services Drug Transparency Program. Also in 2017 and 2019, the Nevada Legislature passed 2 bills forbidding PBMs to use gag clauses of PBMs on pharmacists or pharmacies, allowing them to discuss less expensive drugs or alternate payment options with patients covered by PBMs. While Nevada has taken significant steps to regulating PBMs, challenges remain. Ensuring transparency and accountability in the PBM industry is an ongoing process, and there is still room for improvement. And we must continue to monitor the impacts of PBMs on prescription drug affordability to determine if additional legislative measures are necessary. This is where Assembly Bill 440 comes in, to elevate the purpose of PBMs managing prescription drug plans by increasing accountability and transparency for this business model. Chair Marzola, with your permission, I will briefly summarize Assembly Bill 440 and its key provisions. The bill's key provision is to address the issue of spread pricing. Section 1 prohibits the PBM from earning income from managing pharmacy benefit plans, except for administrative fees paid by an insurer or third party with which the PBM has entered into an agreement or to manage its pharmacy benefit plans. Further, a PBM must provide any income generated through discounts, pricing incentives, or fees collected from a manufacturer to third parties, and any income generated through rebates by manufacturers to covered persons. Existing law establishes a duty of good faith and fair dealing toward a third party. Section 6 replaces these provisions with a fiduciary duty to a PBM toward a third party the PBM is contracting with. A PBM is also prohibited to engage in activities or implement policies that the PBM reasonably anticipates that it could create a conflict of interest with their duties towards the third party. Finally, Section 6 authorizes third parties to audit PBMs to ensure contractual obligations are met in compliance with applicable laws and regulations is maintained. The bill also addresses the funding issues of the Drug Transparency Program of DHHS, as we discussed in the previous bill. Section 7 requires DHHS to prescribe a fee for the issuance or renewal of a certificate of registration as an insurance administrator for a PBM, which will cover anticipated costs of administering the program at DHHS. PBMs are required to pay this fee in addition to other fees due to the Commissioner of Insurance pursuant to Section 2 and 3. In conclusion, PBMs play a critical role in our healthcare system. However, their complex and often opaque operations can also introduce potential conflict of interest and limit patients' affordability for medication. Nevada has taken significant steps to increase transparency and oversight of the pharmaceutical industry, and AB 440 is another component to building on these past efforts. Chair Marzola, I stand for questions. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to be clear that we have worked on and I have received several conceptual amendments to consider, but again, at this time, we're just not at a place to present those as a final product for the committee, but I will continue to work on those and I will bring them around to members as we have worked out the kinks.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, any questions? I don't see any. We will move to testimony in support of Assembly Bill 440. Is there anyone here in Carson City?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Liz McMenamin, Retail Association of Nevada. First of all, I'd like to thank the Assemblywoman for taking on this momentous task and for having the courage to do this, because this is a pretty big big undertaking, and it's been coming. There's other states around us that have done extensive PBM reform, and Nevada is, while they've taken some steps, there are much bigger steps that need to be taken to address the drug costs in the state of Nevada. I represent the chain drugs in the state of Nevada, and also represent a few independents. However, in my research and just going through the Assemblywoman's bill, AB 440, and talking to pharmacists, I have found a number of independent pharmacists down in southern Nevada, and they're on the phone lines, hopefully, because they were all engaged and upset that of the experiences they have had. PBMs actually have they control 77% of the market under the prescription benefit managers. There's 3 major providers, and they actually control 77% of the market. So going forward, and forgive me, Madam Chair, I know I'm going long and I can get quite lengthy, but we have been concerned, the members of Retail Association, the chain drugs operating in our state, with this practice. And if you would please allow me, Madam Chair, there are 3 professionals, experts, who are much more apt and able to answer questions for this committee than I can. I will concede that I am an infant in this, in understanding what this convoluted, complicated system is. And for the longest time, I was a believer that they actually saved on healthcare costs, and I think they did. I think that was when they initially started out, and then we have three providers or companies that now control this, and they're owned by insurance companies now. So when you're talking about the insurance company and the PBM being the same, I look at this as if they're auditing themselves, it's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house is how I see it. So I'm glad that the state of Nevada is stepping up, and you as legislators, I commend you for having the bravery to do this. But on the phone lines, we have Susan Nguyen, Dr. Susan Nguyen, an associate professor of pharmacy practices of Roseman University of Health Sciences, and she's willing to and wants to testify and bring her expertise to the table. And Mr. Joel Kuzman, Director of State Government Affairs for the National Community Pharmacy Association, and those community pharmacies are the ones that are providing for your constituents, for the patients in Nevada, and taking care of them. And then we have Mary Staples with the Director of State Government Affairs with the National Association of Chain Drugstores. So, Madam Chair, how do we, I don't know how you want to do that.
Each one of them will get their 2 minutes once I
Okay.
get to that point.
Okay,
I appreciate
thank
your
you.
testimony today.
I thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me the time.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 440? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Callers, if you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Susan Nguyen, last name Nguyen, and I'm representing Nevada Pharmacy Alliance as the chair of the Legislative and Advocacy Committee, for the record. We really appreciate and support the bill regarding pharmacy benefits managers reform and the need for PBM transparency. And we definitely look forward to working with the sponsor on some of the amendments that the Nevada Pharmacy Alliance and the Retail Association of Nevada have submitted. As you heard from Ms. McMillan, is that currently 3 PBMs control about 80% of the prescription transactions in the United States, and currently they go unregulated. The lack of PBM transparency has greatly affected patients and pharmacies, specifically independent pharmacies in the state of Nevada. These organizations are supposed to pass on savings to patients to help reduce drug costs, but they're keeping those rebates and overpayments for themselves. PBMs affect independent pharmacies by charging retroactive fees and use unfair reimbursement rates for dispensing medications. This has caused some independent pharmacies to close as they're not able to compete with the large chain pharmacies, and also contributes to the high cost of medications. This bill will help increase PBM transparency to help decrease the cost of medications for our patients and help with fair reimbursement for dispensing medications so that our small business independent pharmacies in the state of Nevada have an opportunity to thrive. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment.
And thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Assembly Committee. My name is Jenner Tejero. I am a small pharmacy business owner. My pharmacy name is called Solutions Specialty Pharmacy, based in Las Vegas. And I would reiterate the Nevada Pharmacy Alliance position. And I would ask the Madam Chair and the Assembly Committee to support this bill. This will increase PBM transparency. And as a small business owner, I monitor our reimbursements, and I can tell you that just in the month of March, for example, we have dispensed at a loss about 11% of transactions that we have billed third parties, and this is partly due to the PBM reimbursements. And I would like to thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Are you able to spell your last name for me, please? Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
The last name is Tehero, T as in Tom, E, J as in John, ERO. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 475, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hi, my name is Claire. I am a pharmacist and I own my own pharmacy business in Henderson, Nevada. I do support the bill regarding PBM reform. PBMs have negatively affected my pharmacy financially because they charge DAR and PNR fees after the point of sale, as Dr. Nguyen has mentioned. These assessments occurs many months after the patients have already received their medications, and so we are unable to fully account for such fees at point of sale. In addition, because we are a specialty pharmacy, the cost of the medication is higher, creating a higher DIR fee under a percentage instead of a smaller flat fee. These percentages that are set by the PBMs are not transparent. To put it into perspective of numbers, I was supposed to receive a reimbursement check for claims that we had filled earlier this month, but because the payer had retroactively taken out fees from claims back in September 22, I did not receive a reimbursement check to cover the cost of the medications that we had filled earlier this month. These fees create losses in revenue and at times can surpass the cost of acquiring the medication itself. This can affect our ability to care for patients, provide adequate staffing, and including offering employee benefits and staying competitive in the local pharmacy community, which is why I support the PBM reform. Thank you for your time.
Can you please state your first and last name and spell it for the record?
First name C-L-A-R-E. Last name is Macareg, M-A-C-A-R-A-E-G.
Thank you so much. And I just want to remind everyone that is testifying, please state and spell your name for the record.
Hello. Hi, my name is Madid Raja, last name R-A-J-A. I'm a student intern, and I am in support of the Bill 440, as well as any amendments that NPA has asked for. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Caller with the last three digits, 115, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hello, sorry. Good afternoon again, Madam Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Brian Harris. That's BrianHarris, and I'm the voter education organizer at Battleborn Progress. We would like to also be in strong support of Assembly Bill 440, and I'd like to echo the comments that were made by those before me. We will also be sending in further testimony that is written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 238, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Brian, spelled B-R-I-A-N, last name spelled U-N-G. I'm a student pharmacist, and I would like to call in support of the bill. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Kaylin Bowman. That is Kaylynn. Last name Bowman, Bowman. And I am a pharmacist in Nevada. I've been practicing for over 15 years. And I am in support of this work on the bill and any amendments that are currently being considered for the PBM reform and transparency. And I'm encouraged and delighted that we are taking this challenge on, and I look forward to the work that continues on bringing affordable medication to our members in Nevada, and also pharmacies, relief, and payment that's reasonable to our pharmacies and pharmacists. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Joel Kurzman, JoelKurzman, and I serve as Director of State Government Affairs for NCPA, the National Community Pharmacists Association. I'm pleased to speak in support of the effort to regulate pharmacy benefit management companies in Nevada. NCPA represents the interest of America's independent pharmacies, including the owners of more than 19,000 independent pharmacies nationwide and 78 in the state of Nevada, which employ more than 950 residents and which filled nearly 5 million prescriptions in the year 2021. Unfair PBM practices not only hamper a patient's ability to obtain pharmacy services from their trusted pharmacist, but those practices can also lead to higher drug costs for both patients and plan sponsors. Regulation of PBMs can stop some of those opaque practices that are threatening patient access to community pharmacy services and raising costs for patients and plan sponsors. NCPA supports legislative efforts across the country that improve PBM transparency and create strong authority for enforceable oversight by the state's insurance commissioner. The laundry list of egregious PBM practices is too long to share in my 2-minute testimony, but NCPA stands ready to assist with amending AB 440 to address these critical issues. In conclusion, amending AB 440 is an opportunity to control drug costs in Nevada by providing greater protections for patients regarding their prescription drug benefits programs and establishing greater oversight of the PBMs that administer them. I appreciate the chance to speak with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony, and I don't believe there's any questions.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 829, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Christy Tran, spelled Tran. I am the owner of an independent pharmacy in North Las Vegas. I am here to support Assembly Bill 440 regarding the pricing transparency of the PBMs, so our independent pharmacies can keep our doors open to better serve our community, especially our elders, in a better, efficient, economical ways as much as possible. Thank you for your consideration and action of moving this bill forward.
Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
One moment, Chair.
Good day, Madam Chair, fellow committee members. My name is Dave, D-A-V-E-P-E-I-G-H-T-A-L. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Dave Taylor from the Nevada Pharmacy Association. I'm also a manager of an independent pharmacy. I would like to support the concept and appreciate the ability to have the conversation. I look forward to working with the sponsor on amendments with the RAN and APHA as submitted to the Assembly Bill 440. PBM contracts are very one-sided, take it or leave it. The three largest PBMs control over 80% of the medication dispensed in the United States. These PBMs have their own retail pharmacies providing service to customers. So why would they care if they accepted or rejected their contracts? PBMs started in the 1960s to control drug costs, but have morphed into the most highly concentrated, least accountable profit centers in healthcare. When PBMs sit as the middleman in an opaque transaction between pharmacies, sponsors, beneficiaries, and manufacturers, it gives PBMs powerful insight and creates a conflicting environment for their self-interest that may not be known to the sponsor. Direct and indirect remuneration fees, DIR fees, have increased 91,500% from 2010 to 2019, and the cost of each independent pharmacy on average is $81,000 annually. And it is clawed back months after the date of sale is completed. Many times these prescriptions are paid to low cost. These DIR fees have been redefined by the PBMs and are being used beyond their original purpose. PBMs not only manage drugs, but they also own hospitals, clinics, doctors. Optum United Healthcare, CVS, Caremark owns Aetna. Nevada needs to be a leader in addressing the issues which impacts all Nevadans. The Nevada's annual state controller's report from 2018 directly addresses a low-cost reimbursement to providers. It harms the most vulnerable state population and limits their access to care. We need to have oversight in this unregulated industry. A non-biased, independent entity or plan sponsor should be able to audit these programs. Many states are already working on it or passed legislation. Thank you for addressing this issue.
Hi, my name is Khan Pham, spelling last name Phan, first name spelling Khanh. I'm a pharmacist, president of the Nevada Pharmacy Association, and an independent pharmacy owner. I would like to thank you for taking the difficult task of addressing the PBM reform to strengthen the service of pharmacies in Nevada, particularly the low income or at poverty level. The Nevada Pharmacy Association supports the concept and appreciates the ability to have this conversation and looking forward to working with the sponsor on amendments that the Retail Association of Nevada and APHA submitted. Every year, a few patients always get switched to a plan we refuse to take because of below-cost reimbursement since 2017. This year was no different. Patient couldn't get her pain medication at the PBM pharmacy of choice. She came back to our pharmacy and paid cash for her medication and spent the next month getting switched back to the plan that we accept. We failed for 1 month, it was switched back again, and in the meantime, this patient, one of Nevada's most vulnerable population, has to pay out of pocket twice. In February 2022, the FTC called for comments on PBM's practices and their impacts. They received more than 1,200 individuals' comments for more than 24,000 parties, which is the largest number of comments the FTC has received on a single issue. Your Nevadan constituents cannot go another session without some real reform. The PBM take it or leave it contract, knowing they have their own direct competing pharmacy, are able to eliminate their competition with no oversight. I urge you to look at the comments on the FTC website to have a clear look at what patients have to face. And I challenge you to walk into any independent pharmacy in your district and ask a question about PBM practices and the negative impact they have on the patient and the pharmacy. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hi, this is Michelle Nguyen. I'm a pharmacy student from Roseman University of Health Sciences College of Pharmacy. For the record, name is Michelle, Michelle, last name is Nguyen, and I rise to support Assembly Bill 440. So as a student pharmacist and as a person who has worked in the retail setting, it just breaks my heart when I see patients come in and we have to tell them that your formulary has changed, or we no longer accept your insurance. And we've developed these relationships with these patients, and they're just unable to see us anymore because the PBMs have changed the formularies and which pharmacies that they're able to attend to, which is why I support Bill 440. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Caller with the last three digits, 263, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hi, hello, my name is Sally Chia, spelled SALLYCHIA, and I am in support of the Bill 440 regarding PBM reform. I'm a pharmacist and owner of Refill Pharmacy in Las Vegas. I actually had a firsthand experience in witnessing spread pricing. I spent hours explaining to a patient who demanded we pay her back money because she claims her insurance overpaid us for meds after reviewing her EOB statement. After multiple calls with her insurance plan, and finally a four-way call with the PBM, we all realized the PBM took the majority of the fee and reimbursed us as a small amount that didn't even cover our costs on the medication. So it's really frustrating. The PBM profited from all of us, including the patient. Our pharmacy actually provided, the hands-on service, the medication counseling, the delivery, and we weren't even reimbursed to cover our acquisition costs. So how are we going to stay in business to provide services to the community? The rep from the PBM told us we should just submit an appeal for being underpaid, but after appealing, the response is always reimbursement is within our agreed contracts. So it's usually one-sided because we can't even negotiate our contracts. So this is a huge problem. PBMs are really hurting the community. Another example I had this week, a patient's wife called for counseling on a medication that was mailed to her by a PBM-owned mail-order pharmacy. She was having side effects but couldn't get a hold of a pharmacist for mail order. After our long call, she actually, appreciated the time we took to counsel her on the medication that wasn't even provided by us. But she also apologized for not being able to use our pharmacy for her meds because she pays $0 through mail order versus at a local pharmacy like us, she has a copay she can't afford monthly. So isn't that patient steering and unfair contracts? These are just a couple of examples of how PBM are taking advantage of our community. And I hope, this bill moves forward, and I greatly appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your testimony. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 440. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see any. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 440? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this is Bill Head, Billhead with PCMA, the National PBM Trade Association, in opposition to AB 440. Respectfully so, I want to commend and thank Assembly Member Peters for her gracious time in talking on numerous occasions, talking and trying to work through many of the issues with us and continuing to do so. That is greatly appreciated. I will just address a couple of comments made by some of the other testifiers, though, particularly with respect to DIR fees. Those are not PBM fees. Those are under the Medicare program. And then in terms of the market share, while it is true that the three largest PBMs manage roughly 77% of prescriptions, it would be, I think, short-sighted to think that just addressing the role of PBMs would somehow solve the issue. I think most of you are aware this is a very complicated supply chain. By way of example, the three largest wholesalers have more than 95% of the market, the drugs that they sell to the pharmacies, and then put on another hat and represent those pharmacies as PSAOs in negotiating with PBMs. So it is complex. Again, appreciate Assemblymember Peters working with us and are hopeful we will be able to get to a resolution on this session. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. PBS, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in a neutral position to Assembly Bill 440. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in a neutral position? Please state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Laura Rich, R-I-C-H, and I serve as the Executive Officer of the Public Employees Benefits Program. The PEB board has not been able to weigh in on this bill yet. However, PEB has determined that a fiscal note will be necessary. Our concern lies in Section 2B, which is regarding the rebates being provided directly to the covered person. In a group health plan, the healthy tend to subsidize the sick, and you need those healthy people to pay their premiums and not generate costs. Premiums are set to ensure that they can cover the cost of medical care and for prescription drugs. So PEB uses similar methodology for the rebates. Rebates are passed from the PBM to the plan, which are used to reduce the overall cost of claims and are therefore spread throughout the entire population of people we cover, not just those who generate the rebates. The requirement will likely affect PEB's high deductible plan the most and will reduce the amount of rebates that come back to the plan significantly. Although we don't have formal estimates quite yet, PEB does believe that this number is going to be somewhere between $3.5 million and $7 million per year. So yes, while those who generate the rebates will benefit directly, ultimately all of state employees and retirees will feel the negative impact through higher premiums for state employees and retirees. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in a neutral position? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in a neutral position to Assembly Bill 440? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Hello. First and foremost, I want to thank you for the opportunity to address this committee. I am in support of what was removed from the queue, and I would like permission to give my testimony at this time.
Ma'am, we are currently in the neutral testimony portion of this bill, but you are more than welcome to submit your testimony in writing to the committee manager.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line that's wishing to testify in a neutral position?
Chair, there are no more callers at this time.
Thank you. Assemblywoman, would you like to give any final remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reiterate that this is we're continuing to work on this. Obviously, I did not want to give up an opportunity to have a hearing on these bills. I appreciate your time together. Today. And I will continue to work with stakeholders on this bill, as well as PEB, to ensure that we are not putting an undue fiscal burden on them as well. I believe that's all I have for today. I'll follow up with you all individually as we move forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you again for your presentation and our time together today. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 440. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 415, which revises provision relating to dispensing opticians. Assemblywoman Taylor, you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Haligi, and the distinguished members of the Committee on Commerce and Labor still meeting on the Friday afternoon. Look at you getting the work in. Getting it in. It's an honor to be here before you. My name is Assemblywoman Angie Taylor, and I proudly represent District 27 in Reno, Nevada, in the University District. And I am here presenting Assembly Bill 415, which revises provisions relating to dispensing opticians. I'll give you a little bit of background information and then set it up for you and then turn it over to my co-presenters. The Board of Dispensing Opticians regulates the practice of ophthalmic dispensing, and the governor is required to appoint members of the board. Last session, the legislature considered but did not pass Assembly Bill 319, which would have cleaned up some outdated provisions. There were some last-minute changes, and it ran up against sine die, and we know that's where bills die. And that's what happened. This session, we are introducing AB 415 to revise and clarify provisions, relating to licensing requirements, requirements for current licensees, unlawful acts, and related enforcement provisions. These changes are necessary to ensure the board achieves its primary function of protecting the public's health, safety, and welfare. Corinne Cedrin, Executive Director. Corinne, I have another friend named Corinne, sorry. Corinne Cedrin, Executive Director of the Board of Dispensing Opticians, and Trey Abney with Talcon Group, representing the Board of Dispensing Opticians, are joining me today here in Carson City. And Jennifer Letton, who is Chair of the Board of Dispensing Opticians, is joining us in Las Vegas. So I will briefly provide a summary of the bill, followed by Ms. Cedrin and Mr. Abney, who will provide more details of the provisions of Assembly Bill 415, and they're also available to answer any technical questions the committee members may have, and also Madam Chair of the board is here with us in Las Vegas to answer questions as well. So briefly, the board of opticians has been working on the language that will become AB 145 at its meetings over the past 2 years to ensure that it effectively streamlines NRS Chapter 637 and brings it up to date with the most current realities of the profession. This bill serves three main purposes. Number one, streamlining and organizing the provisions and removing outdated and extraneous language. Number two, clarifying and simplifying the procedure for obtaining a license, including removing barriers for both in-state and out-of-state applicants. And number three, facilitating the board's enforcement of its laws so it may be done in the most efficient and cost-effective manner possible for all parties. And we believe this bill reflects the board's efforts on those points, as well as the state's general interest in facilitating licensure and job opportunities. So I will now pass it over to my co-presenters who will present, and then we'll all stand for questions. Mr. Abney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you today. Trey Abney with the Abney Talcon Group, TRAYABNEY, here today representing the Nevada Board of Dispensing Opticians. Madam Chair, I really appreciate my friend Assemblywoman Taylor for agreeing to carry this bill. As you can tell, it is what we call a cleanup bill in this building, and it is lengthy and in the weeds. It was brave of Assemblywoman Taylor to carry this bill as a freshman, and while she is smiling here in front of you today, I know she is cursing my name once we leave this table and probably won't be taking my calls anymore. Assemblywoman Taylor did an excellent job of outlining high level what this bill does, so I will not go through that again. And so, Madam Chair, as you know, I am not that bright, and so therefore I want to turn this over to Corinne Cedrin, who is the Executive Director of the Nevada Board of Dispensing Opticians. Now, I know this is your last bill on a Friday afternoon. We did provide a section-by-section summary of this bill in Nellis, and there is a sponsors amendment which you can find on Nellis. And as Assemblywoman Taylor mentioned, our board chair, Jennifer Letton, is at the table, and Grant Sawyer. She's certainly an expert in this field. and can answer questions as well. So, Madam Chair, we will take your guidance as to how you want us to proceed. We can do a brief overview of section by section or go to questions, whatever you feel is appropriate.
Just a brief review section by section, very high level, if you could.
Okay, then I will turn it over to Corinne Cedrin. Thank you.
Hello, this is Corinne Cedrin with the Board of Dispensing Opticians, Executive Director. My name is spelled Corinne. Cedrin is Sedran. Thank you so much for taking the time today to hear us. I will just go through this as briefly as I possibly can. I'll start with section 2 here. We're just changing, we have a short title there at the top of our bill. We're going to remove that. Nobody refers to it by short title. And we are going to replace that with a statement of legislative purpose, which is to protect the public health and safety. Sections 3, 4, and 5 are general updates to our definitions having to do with ophthalmic dispensing. We want to clarify license means a license issued by the board. Optical establishment means a single physical location and not just a business that's engaged in ophthalmic dispensing. And then direct supervision means a supervisor needs to be actually on the premises to supervise an apprentice. Pretty straightforward there. Section 6 is an immunity clause. This is in line with other board statutes and general Nevada law, just protecting staff and board members from civil liability for any act performed in good faith. Let's see, Section 7, this is a streamlining of the provisions related to apprentice licenses. We just kept it as clean and clear as possible. 1, 2, 3, these are the requirements to become licensed as an apprentice. Section 8 is probably one of the lengthiest, and that's our regulatory authority, the board's regulatory authority with respect to licensure. And what we wanted to do here was give ourselves a little bit more flexibility with respect to regulation in terms of just the daily ins and outs of license administration, expiration dates, CE credit requirements, things like that we want to address in regulation, because right now all licenses expire January 31st, and that's not necessarily the best way to administer these licenses. But we did actually leave some clarity within the statute, some finite terms regarding each type of license, because as you probably know, the governor's executive orders right now put a freeze on all of our regulatory authority. So we do need to make sure that these finite aspects of licensure are addressed in statute in the absence of a regulation to clarify. So that is Section 8, I believe. Yes, Section 9, this is a fee section. We just consolidated every fee related to licensure within our statute, put it into a single section. Again, this is commensurate with other board statutes. Most of them have a fee section where it's just put plainly into a single section. And we have amended this one, so I'll go over the amendments at the end. Section 10 is just clarifying complaints that they may be filed against either a licensed person or a person who is thought to be violating a provision of the law but is unlicensed. And Section 11 is very important for us. This is citation authority, and we really do think this is going to help facilitate our enforcement actions, because we have various violations that are fairly minor, things like a person is not displaying their license certificate at their place of business, they don't notify the board of a change of address, things of that nature, where we really don't want to pull them in for a hearing and make them go through that whole process at a public hearing. We just want to say, hey, you guys need to fall in line and follow the provisions of our statute. Here's a very minor citation and fine, which if they do believe that they have not violated any provisions of our statute, they still have the right to a full hearing. So that is the citation authority provisions there. Let's see, Section 11, Section 12. Again, this just has to do with citation authority. This goes into the person who cited their ability to request a full administrative hearing. Okay, Section 13 and 14 are more definitions. We just wanted to, and 15 as well. So with respect to Section 14, license means a license issued pursuant to this chapter. or a limited license issued pursuant to this chapter. We just really wanted to clarify that that's what dispensing optician means, and it's not just a dispensing optician, from any state or territory. We wanted to clarify that. Section 15 is a pretty big section, but it just clarifies the definition of ophthalmic dispensing. We wanted to get rid of some outdated terms and outdated, delivery, for example, is not something that we deal with any longer because we have online orders and things like that. Just practical aspects of the profession now that have to be addressed, that we no longer are necessarily hand delivering the product to the person. Verification, we want to clarify what that means exactly, that that's in the inspection and then issuing a final authorization to dispense lenses. And then we wanted to clarify as well what dispensing is not. It does include making of recommendations for anything having to do with any design features necessary to fill a prescription. Anything that does not have to do with anything necessary to fill a prescription may be done by an unlicensed person. So we did want to clarify what can and cannot be done by a person who might be employed by the same company as other licensed opticians but is not licensed themselves. I think that's it for section 15, yes. So section 16. Here we just took a provision, removed it from this section, and moved it into the definition of dispensing opticians. It has to do with the sale of non-prescription items. We just want to clarify that that does not constitute dispensing, but it does not mean that the people selling these are not subject to our laws and regulations the way a licensed optometrist or ophthalmologist would be. It's just that the sale of those items does not constitute dispensing. So we moved that provision. Section 17. We wanted to clarify that members of the board, the 4 members of the board active in the profession, must be licensed by the board. Section 18 is just a consolidation of provisions related to the business of the board. So electing board officers, meetings, and what constitutes a quorum and a fiscal year. If I'm giving too much detail, please let me know. I'm very happy to give less. Section 19 is board member salaries and staff reimbursements for travel costs. Section 20, more consolidation of provisions related to just general administration of the boards, maintaining offices, employing personnel, and contracting with professionals. Section 21, this is a section where we just moved a provision. This provision regarding accepting gifts, grants, and donations of contribution of money was originally in our disciplinary section, and it had to do with accepting gifts for the purpose of carrying out investigations. That didn't seem right to us. Why would we accept gifts for the purpose of carrying out investigations? That seems like it might bias the board. We thought the purpose of this provision was to help the board with its administrative costs, so we moved it into a more general provision, which has to do with monetary provisions of the board.
You can go a little higher level, I think.
Okay. Less detail, sure. Okay, section 22 is a general regulatory authority of the board, just consolidating that. Section 23 is public records of the board, just clarifying and streamlining. We cut a lot of that out. That just wasn't necessary. We're subject to Nevada public records laws. And then the most important probably section is the section 24. Section 25, which is a streamlining of the requirements for obtaining a license. This is especially important because it gives the board the ability now to offer license reciprocity and to waive our examination requirements for people coming from equivalent licensed states. We did not until a few years ago have a national exam that was appropriate. So we do now, and now we can offer that sort of license reciprocity. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here with Section 25. Let's see, Section 26. Again, public records and just cleaning those up, what kind of records we need to keep on our applicants. Section 27. This is where we consolidate all of our provisions related to limited licenses, which we are no longer issuing. We just want to keep everything related to a limited license within one section, so the statute's easy to amend in the future when we do not have limited licenses left that we are overseeing. And Section 28 is just related to employment and oversight of dispensing opticians in the workplace. Let's see, Section 29 is just a streamlining and clarifying of disciplinary actions against licensees. Section 30, did I miss one? I don't think so. Okay, Section 30 is all of the board's investigatory authority, hearing authority, examining witnesses, and subpoena authority all in one section now. And Section 31 is disciplinary actions, not disciplinary, but enforcement actions against unlicensed individuals who might break one of the provisions of the board. Section 32, the final section, is just adding provisions related to citation authority, which is new, and then also provision prohibiting a member of the public from holding themselves out as a dispensing optician without holding a license. And that is it. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear all of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That, as you can see, the vast majority of this bill is cleanup. And so what we're hoping is for your support as we can streamline some things, cleanline some things, and streamline some things, clean up some others, and make sure that we put the board in a position where they can operate more efficiently and effectively.
Madam Chair, again, Trey Abney for the record. I just want to point out real quick, there is a sponsors amendment online, and just one of those provisions specifically I want to point out to the committee does fix the fee schedule so it gets rid of that 2/3 requirement on the bill. When the bill came out, we did not mean for it to have that, and so that is one of the primary fixes in that amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, with your permission, we will stand for questions. And just as a reminder, we have our director, our chair of the board, I should say, of with us at Grant Sawyer in Las Vegas, who's also prepared to stand/sit for questions.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. Committee members, any questions? Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so with that, Mr. Abney, this would be a question on what you just said. So I take it that NRS 637.110 that currently governs fees will no longer be repealed if you're taking out the fee provision in the bill.
This is Corinne Sedgren, Executive Director for the board. So we're not removing the fees provision. We had just entered an amendment to adjust two of the fees listed under that provision of Section 9, an examination established by the board and an application for a license as a dispensing optician. Originally, those fees were combined into a single fee. We've separated those out even though the board is no longer administering an exam, just in case for some reason in the future a national exam's not available. But we reduced the fees on each of those to $250 so they would not exceed the original cap of $500 for license fee and examination together. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Hardy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to verify what you said, that you're not going to issue any more limited licenses if they have, there's a section in here that says if they were licensed before February, whatever that date was. So I just want to confirm you'll be having licenses as a dispensing optician and an apprentice dispensing optician and discontinuing the limited license.
Yes, Corinne Sedgren. That's correct. So that type of license was already discontinued. We haven't changed that. We will still be issuing the full license as an optician to dispense both spectacles and contact lenses. The limited license was just for dispensing spectacles, and that was phased out, I believe, starting in 2004. So it's been a long time since the board has issued that type of license. Thank you.
Any additional questions? I don't see any. I have one quick one. On section 17, page 10, I see that you have 4 members on your board, and I'm wondering why not an odd number, right? 5. What happened? Or 7 or 9, what have you. What happens if there's a tie when the members are voting?
Thank you. This is Corinne Sedgren. So the statute actually lists also a member of the general public who's a fifth member of the board. So I have to make sure with this legislative language, I believe they've only edited the portion related to the 4 members who are members of the profession and left the fifth member alone in our statute.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Members, last chance. I don't see any. We will take testimony in support of Assembly Bill 415. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 415? You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Alex Canito, Cannito, with the law firm Lewis Roca, here on behalf of the American Board of Opticianry and National Contact Lens Examiners, and this is the board that certifies the doctors and the nurses who dispense and work with eyewear and contacts. We want to thank Assemblywoman Taylor for bringing forth this legislation. Nevada licensed opticians are essentially the pharmacists and nurses of the eye care industry. They take a prescription from an ophthalmologist or optometrist and dispense specialty eyewear in accordance with the prescription. During the course of that treatment, licensed opticians are often the first responders to issues related to the eye care patient, whether fitting contact lenses or dispensing spectacle eyewear. During those times, these licensed professionals assure that patients receive proper treatment, are not exposed to potential loss of vision, identify the proper use of spectacles, contact lenses, and affiliated products, and other critical training designed to protect patients from potential loss of their vision, blindness. It's important that Nevada be the gold standard for eye care, and we ask you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony this afternoon. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 415? Please state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you for your time. My name is Mark Myers, Markmyers. While I am speaking on behalf of myself, I am currently licensed in Nevada for opticianry and have been so for 18 years, as well as an instructor in the ophthalmic program at CSN. I would like to support this bill as it's been years in the making, with multiple workshops and meetings having gone into consideration of all voices. I'm excited to see the updated regulations and the evolution of the field, and I just want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 415?
If you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 415, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
This is James Morris. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead and please state and spell your name for the record, and you can begin when you're ready.
Yes, James Morris, James Morris. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable committee members of this last Friday afternoon bill. My name is James Morris. I'm the Executive Director and General Counsel for ABO and NCLE, or the American Board of Opticianry. We've certified over 75,000 professionals in ophthalmic dispensing, and we also provide the minimum competency exams as well for the state of Nevada. I'm pleased to provide testimony to support Assembly Bill 415. Each of the committee members should have already received my personal testimony in support of this bill, and I respectfully request consideration of that written testimony. I'll only briefly add that these changes to the bill are critical to continuing the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of the state of Nevada. The proposed amendments will further allow the board to continue its diligent efforts on behalf of the Nevada Legislature and will assure that patients such as my son are protected from dangerous, unauthorized practice that could lead to the loss of vision, the eyes itself, and could well cause death, as has recently been discussed at length in the media with the eye drops and the outdated and dangerous products. As such, it is my honor to speak in favor of Assembly Bill 415 and to encourage your passage of that bill as proposed by the Nevada Board of Dispensing Opticians. Thank you for listening to my testimony today.
Thank you for taking your time on a Friday afternoon. We appreciate it. Broadcast, is there anyone else on the line?
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 415. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 415? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 415, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in a neutral position to Assembly Bill 415? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in a neutral position? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 415, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 610, please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Ryan, and thank you, Madam Chairman, for listening. I am definitely in support of licensure in the state of Nevada. However, I think some of the legislations and the bills needs to, yes.
Are you wishing to testify in a neutral position, or are you supporting the bill?
I was trying to get on for opposing.
Okay, we've closed opposition. We've closed opposition
Well, he passed
testimony.
right through me, so I can go with it.
You can go ahead and submit your opposition testimony in writing to our committee manager. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in a neutral position to Assembly Bill 415?
Chair, there are no more callers at this time.
Thank you. Assemblywoman, would you like to give some final remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assemblywoman Angie Taylor for the record. And to the Vice Chair and all of you on the committee, we thank you for taking the time to hear this bill late on a Friday afternoon. And just look forward to, I want to follow up, if I read you correctly, Assemblywoman Backus, I think you had a little concern about maybe that may or may not get us away from the 2/3. So I read that, so I'll make sure we follow up on that to do our due diligence. But we certainly respectfully request your support as we clean this up and allow this board to go forward in the best way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 415. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record as well. Is there anyone wishing to provide public comment here in Carson City? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to provide public comment? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you'd like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Committee members, any comments, questions before I adjourn? I don't see any. This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be Monday, April 3rd at 1:30 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.